Diamonds on the inside, sparkling from within. Diamonds.
This is the first episode of Trying to Win.
Sara and I together own Lincoln Derr, a law firm in Charlotte. We've been practicing law for a long time and tried quite a few cases. We're going to go through a format similar to a civil jury trial today and talk about basically opening statement, what we're going to talk about today, the evidence, closing arguments, what are the takeaways, and then hopefully we'll hear from you and your thoughts on the verdict.
And for our very first episode, we thought it would be really fun to talk about our first jury trials that each one of us went through as young lawyers many, many, many years ago, and what it was like to go through that process and what we took away from that really pretty much for the rest of our careers. So that's the plan for the day.
Well, and I think we were talking about this in the car earlier, and, you know, you go to law school, you take the bar exam, you get your license, you think you know everything, and you realize really quickly that you don't know anything. I mean, anything, because so much of the practice of law is practicing, right?
Practice, yeah.
It's experience, and it takes a while. So, no, you want me to go first, or do you want to go and talk about your first experience?
No, yours is really funny. So mine might be a little bit more technical, which is usually how we roll. She's the more creative, wide open, and I'm more clinical.
Yin and yang. It's why it works, right? Yeah, so I got my license. I started working, and the first day of work, my boss, this old salty dog, red-headed guy, like literally with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. That's how old I am, right? You could smoke in the buildings. But anyway, he comes walking in, and gosh, he's just got this serious look on his face, and he's got these accordion files in his arms, and he kind of dumps them on my desk in front of me. And I kind of look at him. I'm scared to death already, right? It's my first day. And he says, here are your files. And he goes, this one's up for trial on Monday. Don't F it up. He did. Like, this is a true story.
I know
really
him,
did this
and
to me.
I remember the
Scared
cowboy
me to
hat,
death.
too.
I had to go in the bathroom and call my mom. Like, it was awful. Anyway, so that weekend, it was a chiropractic, rear end case, maybe $2,000 in damages or something. But I spent at least 40 hours that weekend getting ready. I had all my law school trial books out, and I diagrammed everything. I wrote out every word I was going to say, my opening, all of that. So I had no idea what I was doing. But I go in on Monday morning, and I get there early. I've got my Post-it notes. I've got my rules of evidence, and I'm sitting there on the desk, and I'm waiting, and I've got everything organized. And all of a sudden, as I'm sitting there, there's a tap on my shoulder. So I spun my head around and looked, and it was the plaintiff's lawyer sitting there. And he goes, you're in my chair. And I was like, what? And I was so offended that you even say this to me that I say to him, well, but I got here first. And he leans over, and he very, very politely, actually, nice guy, you know him, Sara, but he says to me, the plaintiff sits next to the jury. I was like, oh, well, let me just move. So anyway, the funny part of it was that everybody knows, everybody is supposed to know, lawyers especially, that the plaintiff, the person with the burden of proof, always sits closest to the jury. That's the way that it works.
Actually, not everybody knows that because they don't
apparently
teach you that in law school.
Apparently not. No, so 3 years of law school at Chapel Hill, and I didn't, I guess I was sick that day. I don't know, but I did never learn that. So that was my first experience. I stumbled through it. It was horrible. I did an awful job. We won. I don't even know how. Just luck, I guess, but that's part of it, right?
Absolutely.
Luck and kind of learning as you go and learning from your mistakes. I never sat in the wrong seat again. So that's mine. What about you, Sara?
Oh, gosh. So my first jury trial that I remember, so if I'm being completely honest, I'm sure that I had one in the first 3 years of my practice, which was in Ohio.
I love that, if I'm being completely honest. Lawyers say that all the time. It's like, why are you sometimes not being
we have to
honest?
Emphasize when we really are telling the truth.
Yes.
So it was actually here in North Carolina, and I was in a similar kind of firm as Tricia was when we both first started. And in fact, we met way back when and didn't practice law together for a long time, but was basically doing like automobile accident type cases. And in North Carolina, in the smaller cases, you have to go through an arbitration process first.
And for the people that don't know what that is, it's
a
basically
non-jury
just
trial.
A arbitrator makes a decision, so another lawyer makes a decision to try to get the case resolved. And if it doesn't work, you go to a jury trial, right?
Right, because it's cheaper to have an arbitrator decide something than it is to bring all the jurors in, and it's a quicker process. I think you only got an hour, maybe 90 minutes total for both sides of the case. Like, it's a really quick and dirty kind of process. And so we had already done that, and the plaintiff won at arbitration. But I appealed.
They always do.
I know they always do. It's true. At least we felt that way back then.
Yes, we did.
And so we appealed to the district court to get a jury trial. And it was in the old Gaston County, North Carolina courthouse, which was the most unique building you've ever been in. Like, the staircases were super narrow. And I just remember walking up this super narrow staircase to go to the district court courtroom, which was going to be pretty small, and being just absolutely terrified that this was the first case I'd tried by myself. And I felt really strongly that we should win the case. It involved, I was defending a guy who was driving an ambulance and hit somebody during a snow and ice storm.
Well, come on.
I know, exactly, right? And it wasn't like we weren't even on the way to a call. I mean, he was driving, and it just so happened that his ambulance slid, and he lost control of the ambulance because of the snow and the ice. And for those of you who don't live in North Carolina, we have no salt. We have no slag.
We have no snow and ice.
We have no.
That was the one day.
That's right. We rarely have snow and ice, so nobody knows how to drive in it when it happens. But in any event, so we get upstairs, and the first thing that I really remember about the trial was the plaintiff showed up. He was a very large man, and he wore a completely purple suit, top and bottom, with a black shirt on. I will never forget that purple suit.
The whole My Cousin Vinny, you blend.
Yes,
line comes to
exactly.
mind.
In Gaston County?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he gets up on the witness stand, and his lawyer's asking him questions, and he hands him a photograph of a, what are the things on the side of the road that you...
Guardrail.
Guardrail, thank you. Hands him a picture of the guardrail, and he's trying to get that picture into evidence to show the extent of the impact that his car had with the guardrail, which is what he was contending had caused all of his soft tissue injuries in this accident case. And I objected to the photograph.
Did you know what you were objecting to, like, actually?
I actually did. It was one of the things that I'd learned when I was practicing in Ohio from a mentor of mine. And he was like, if you're going to put in a photograph, you've got to lay the foundation for the photograph under the rules of evidence. Where was it taken? When was it taken? Who took it? All of those things have to be established before you can show that photograph to the jury. And so I objected to the photograph. And the lawyer on the other side, he was like, but I took the picture. And I was like,
then you get on the witness stand.
Okay, that good for you. When did you take it? Where did you take it? And it turns out he had to acknowledge to the judge that he had actually taken a picture of the guardrail that his client had allegedly hit after being bumped by my ambulance 8 months after the accident, not immediately after the accident. So he couldn't establish that the damage to the guardrail as it existed 8 months later was actually caused by his client running into it as opposed to somebody else running into it. And the photos never came into evidence. He hated me from that moment forward. And
I know who you're talking about. He hates me too.
And we ended up winning that case. And I felt so good coming out of the first jury trial with a win. Really helps your confidence as a young lawyer.
Absolutely. Isn't that amazing?
It's one of the best feelings in the world.
Yeah, it really is euphoric. It's just awesome to get that, get the verdict in your client's favor. You feel like all your hard work is, paid off and that they found the truth, right?
Yeah, we're adrenaline junkies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure, of course. The thing is that goes both ways. I mean, you're going to have days like the one that I had when I, sat in the wrong chair and embarrassed myself to death. And that's not the only time I embarrassed myself to death. I promise you that. But you have times like that, and then you have the times when the jury comes back, and you feel, that sense of elation, and just, I don't know, it's awesome. I still live for that, Mm-hmm. It's what makes you passionate about what you do.
Absolutely. So, what would you change about your first experience?
I would sit in the right seat.
Would you really? You would trade it back?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell it if I traded it back.
Right.
But, no, I guess not. I mean, I think it goes to show that the point is, and I think the takeaway, sort of the closing, wrapping it up part of the discussion is that, you really, no matter what you do, I think, and I've never been a nurse or a doctor, but I've represented plenty of them. And I think no matter what it is that you actually study for, at the end of the day, what you do is very, very different than what you study. So a diploma or a degree really, it doesn't teach you, and it teaches you nothing but maybe some of the mechanical basics. Maybe the rules of evidence. In your case, you need to object. That's good. But it doesn't teach you the little things and the nuances that you learn along the way, either because you got burned and you learned the lesson and the next time you did it to the next person, you know, or you came up with something clever and it worked.
Or like telling your client not to wear a purple suit, top to bottom, in front of a Gaston County jury.
Or telling your very wealthy client not to wear the Rolex or drive the Jag.
Or to have his wife, who has been turned into plastic, sitting behind him in the courtroom.
Right.
Just saying. We've done it.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
I had somebody show up with a 3-piece suit on. I said, you're going to need to take that vest off. He said, my wife loves this vest. I said,
your wife's not on the jury.
Good for her. You're going to have to take that off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, you know, those are the things you don't really learn. And coming out of law school being so new, it's hard for us to even relate to. You know, when we hire new lawyers, we have to really watch ourselves and the way we talk, because you get 25 years under your belt and, you know, the words just kind of come out naturally for you. And you have to remember, what was it like to be that person who was so eager to learn, who wanted the attention and time of their mentors more than anything in the world and wanted to learn, you know? And it's just so easy to lose sight of that. So I think the takeaway, at least from my perspective, for the young lawyers out there is get your rear end into the courtroom and do it soon, because there's no better way to learn than through experience. And the lessons you learn in the courtroom, you will never, ever forget.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, today, particularly because we're starting this during COVID, there just aren't very many opportunities to get into the courtroom. But even before COVID, the number of jury trials has been decreasing exponentially every year since we started practicing. I mean, we used to try a case a month when we were young lawyers back in the day. I mean,
sometimes 2 in a week.
Yeah, the district court cases that would only take a day or two, you know, and that just doesn't happen anymore. So, you know, we always encourage our young lawyers to get to the courtroom to watch what other lawyers are doing, and
that's a good
particularly to learn from what they do that isn't working for them.
Or isn't working for other people, right?
Yeah.
If you watch other lawyers in the courtroom, you can see very clearly, like, ooh, ouch, you know, or they shouldn't have done that, you know?
Yeah, you learn a lot. And even today during COVID, in case anybody's wondering, you know, our Constitution is still in place, and all of our courts are open, and most of them have the instructions online on how you can log in and watch or participate or listen in on.
That's pretty cool.
Listen in on hearings.
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
And even now,
tool.
you know, the United States Supreme Court arguments, you can listen to live online. We
watched you online not long ago, but yeah, at the Court of Appeals.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. So, I mean, get in there. If you aren't able to go in yourself, you still need to go in and watch other people and hear what works for them and what doesn't work for them, and really pay attention to how the people around them even are reacting to the things that they're saying and doing, and how people are holding themselves, because it'll help you figure out how you want to present.
Who you are. What are you?
And I can't say, I mean, we have said this repeatedly to other people, you know, Trish isn't me and I'm not Trish. We both go in and do our own thing. We have very similar thought processes around what we do, but you have to be you. Right. And I think one of the reasons that we've had the level of success that we've had is because we're authentically us in the courtrum.
Vulnerable.
With just a little less swearing.
Yeah, we try. Absolutely. So the takeaway from my perspective is you're gonna make mistakes. It's okay. You'll learn from them. It's the best teaching tool in the world. Your takeaway.
Know the rules of evidence.
Yeah.
Prepare. Yes. I mean, like, those things just make a huge difference. And own that you're nervous. Like, own that you're terrified walking in there. Like, that is going to heighten your responsiveness. It's going to, you know, and take that and try and use it as a power instead of a weakness. It really is incredible. Once you get past those first few minutes, you'll realize that things will flow for you. It's always great to start out anytime you walk into the courtroom for the first time to just say your name, kind of like we did for this first podcast, right? Say your name. I'm Sara Lincoln. I'm here. I represent so-and-so. You can't mess that up. You know your name. and hopefully you know who you represent. Sometimes,
absolutely.
sometimes not at a deposition,
When
but
you get
by the
really
time you
nervous.
get to trial, you probably should know that.
Do you know that to this day, when I go in a courtroom, I still have that kind of that nervous feeling? And you'll notice whenever I go in the courtroom, I always have a Yeti with a straw, because I never want to pick up the cup on the counsel table because I'm scared I'll shake. To this day,
And the water will come out. Yeah, you'll spill.
To this day, I still have that feeling. And you and I have said this before. The day I walk into a courtroom and I don't have that adrenaline butterfly feeling is the day I need to quit.
Yep.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
part of the best and worst thing about people is the same thing, and that jacked up feeling and that adrenaline rush is also what makes you so intense with what you're doing and passionate about it. So it's a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's a gift. So
yeah.
Awesome.
So those are our first trial experiences, as told you on our first podcast episode.
Yeah, first one. Yay. Yay. This is definitely not our element with this big giant microphone in my face, but I'm getting used to it.
So we'll really hope that you guys will keep listening.
Give us a verdict. You're the
Go
jury.
online. That's right.
Give us a verdict. Go online.
Rate us, subscribe to us, download us, wherever you get your podcast.
It'll only get better from here. Thanks,
It
guys.
can only get better from here.
Yeah.